So we're back here with Skelly, and before we keep on going, I wanted us to take a moment to take a look at the basic basic structures, really the big picture of our structure. We're not going to go into details, but you'll see that we basically have three main volumes: the head, the thorax, and the pelvis. Right? You can see them from the front as well. Right? So all of this time when we were sitting and we were looking also at our breathing, noticing how these volumes, the relationship between these volumes changes. And that's really what balance is all about. How do we balance, how do we align these three volumes? So this is exactly what we're going to do in order to find more efficient ways of standing and walking, of course. So let's start, and let's start with focusing on the pelvis. We need to think about this connection at the back, which we call our spine, and how it mitigates the forces from the upper body into the pelvis, and how that then through the hip joint gets managed down through the legs, gets down to the legs. So as you can understand, we're going to take our focus right at the hip joint. And you can see Skelly here. He has his pelvis tilted forward. That means in a real human, this. So you can see, now that I pointed it out to you, this is not, unfortunately for poor Skelly, it's not good alignment, because now the point, if we can imagine a fulcrum point here, it has moved backwards. So all of the forces as they're coming down, they're hitting right here at his lower lumbar. So this, if you can relate, and maybe some of you can, causes a lot of lower back problems. Also, how you have more weight, all of the organs are pressing forward. You have more weight to manage from the front compared to having the pelvis in a position where all these forces can be more efficiently transferred down into the legs. So let me just push Skelly just a little bit over. Oops. Okay, let's try this again. Push Skelly just a little bit over. And imagine placing your two fingers right here at the hip joint. You can gently press, gently press. Imagine you have like a rod, and you are going into flexion and extension of the lower lumbar, or swinging the hips to the front and to the back. Or alternatively, many images you can create here, as if the pelvis is like a bowl, and you're tilting the bowl backwards and you're tilting the bowl forwards. So you can kiss the limits of this, like I'm doing now. I'm kissing the limits of extension. But after you kiss them a couple of times, try to focus more on the in-between. Try to become aware of the spot that is just right. That's what we're looking for, the spot that is just perfect. So don't think about going, oh, how far can I go? No. Our goal is to find the spot that is just right. And you'll notice that there is micro movement in my knees and my hips, so I'm not locking. Because if we lock, we're not going to be able to fully move the hips. So I'm bending my knees a little bit more, and my weight is traveling a little bit more forward, and vice versa when I'm going to the back. So we let this happen. Let's do a couple more, and of course, feel free to spend more time here if you feel that you need to. And come back to that spot that you feel that is just right. And it's going to be just right for you. So don't copy me, because we are all uniquely different, but similar design, but slightly different. And we're going to take our mind now to the head. And let me bring Skelly a little bit further back so you can see him a little bit better. There we go. So you'll notice that if I have we have an imaginary line here where the spine is, there is more structure at the front compared to the back. Additionally to the skull structure, you have muscles here, you have fluids. So overall, the weight that we have at the front is more compared to the weight that we have at the back. And yes, we have muscles here, but they cannot manage all that weight that we have forward. So if we want to balance the head, which is exactly what we're going to do, we need to take that into consideration and allow for the atlas to come, which is the top, the very top vertebra right here, to come a little bit forward. This will bring our cervical spine more underneath and will allow for our eyes to align with the horizon and our chin to lift. So again, let's try this together. You can place to make this actually a little bit easier, and imagine again that fulcrum point. You can place a finger behind your ear where it's at the top of your lower jaw. And again, we tip forward and we tilt back. If you feel the back muscles stretching, you've gone too far. That's you're kissing the edge, as we were saying. Same here. If you're starting to feel the stretch at the front or a pinch at the back, you've gone too far. And it's okay to kiss those limits once in a while, but try more to focus on finding the right spot. You can also have, what also sometimes helps if you have one hand at the back of the neck, just noticing how the muscles change. They engage if you start to go too far forward. And then as you're reaching that sweet spot, they relax. And same if you place one hand at the front, you go back very soon because we have less of extension. You will feel them starting to engage. And then as you come towards your sweet spot, they're going to relax. Let's do one more. Change this way. Focus on finding that sweet spot. And gently release the hands if you were holding. And notice now how your neck is feeling. And of course, we have that extra volume, the thorax. We're going to go right here, somewhere in the area of the last two ribs, almost in the middle of the body, somewhere around here. So here. In this area, we have a lot of movement. We have flexion and extension. We have rotation, and we have side-to-side reach. So there's a lot of movement here to be managed. We're going to be focusing on the flexion and extension just like we did before. And see how this relates now to the head and to the hips. Let's push Skelly slightly out. And let me turn my back to you because I have this little knot here that shows that spot. And this is an area. It's not one vertebra. It's an area around which we want to focus on. And we create flexion and extension. I'm just going to turn so you can see me a little bit better. We create flexion and extension. Flex and extend. And of course, though you can leave your body, your head, and disassociate from your body, we're going to take it with us. And though you can keep your hips stuck, what's wrong with me? Though you can keep your hips stuck in one position, we're going to take them with us. Still, our focus though is right here in this area. You can create flexion and extension further up and further lower in the body, but we want to focus at that area to see how we can balance that volume. And again, allow yourself to kiss the edge of flexion and extension. However, you want to really notice where the middle is. Let's do one more. And find center. Good. And before we move away from Skelly, so let's see how we can go from top all the way to the bottom, rearranging these three volumes. So get settled, shake it up, and let's start from the head. Again, you can place one hand at the back or two hands if you feel that you need to, or no hands, of course, and go down and up. And notice that we have generally more flexion than we have extension. Good, let's do one more. Find center, that sweet spot, and curve, and curve, and go. Don't go to the edge. Try to move within that neutral zone. One more. And find center. And then go to the hips. Remember that fulcrum. Notice also how the other volumes respond. Last one. And find center. And just take a moment to notice. Notice how we're feeling. Notice how easy the breath is, that it flows. Notice also that we are ready to move, but we're not over engaging. That we are not in extension or full flexion, but we're somewhere in between. Always somewhere in between.